Hey guys, this is Joe from In Response, and I know it's been a couple weeks since our last video, but I thought now would be a good time to take it back and do some more streaming with Arena. This is the first stream we've done since they banned Nexus of Fate in the best of one format here. That was one of the cards that I played a lot, quite a bit actually. It was only a singleton in the blue-white control deck I was playing. So let's adjust. The meta is kind of still adjusting a little bit. You see a lot more aggro, a lot more red deck wins or burn. There's a few gate decks every now and then you also run into those blue-white control decks that I'm playing. So let's, without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's take a look at the deck first. Let's see where we at. We're gonna here select the deck. Again, this is blue-white control. You're gonna have to pardon me, I got a little bit of the sniffles today. So what we're doing, this is kind of another standard stock list, tweaked maybe just a little bit. You got a lot of card draw with ops and anticipates. The counter spells, absorb. I was running the sinister sabotages for quite a while. The absorbs, along with the revitalize right here, are massive when it comes against the red deck wins or the burn decks. Especially Revitalize. That's really kind of an underrated card in this format, I think, especially on Arena. It essentially cycles for three life. And then I'm running a couple negates here. This is a card that never feels bad in my hand, no matter the matchup. I don't even care if it's against the gate decks. You know, some of them are still running the Wilderness Reclamation and a lot of other decks like that. Plus, you're always seeing those Vivian Reeds in a lot of green decks too, and it just never feels bad in my hand. So the win condition now for this deck, I really like the 3 Karns. This is really a solid card. It kind of filters, and it also serves as a win condition, as you can see here, down here at the bottom, the -2. It just creates these growing artifact constructs. I'm also running 2 Lyra Dawnbringers. When I land this against those burn decks, it's pretty much game over, especially if they're down to 1 or 2 cards in their hand, which is typically the time I throw this down anyways. And then Angel of Grace. I really think this is kind of it's really kind of an underrated card, especially in Arena. The Flash, I really like to flash it in and then follow it up with Lyra. And then, of course, we have the 2 Teferis, which people always have to respect in that regard. All right, so let's get underway here. And again, Merfolk, I think the last couple times we played, we saw quite a few matchups against Merfolk. I haven't seen Merfolk in quite a while, so let's see what we're up against now. All right, so this is an obvious mulligan to me. The card draw, sure you have opt, but we need as a control deck. You always need to be hitting your lands. So this is not a bad starting hand. It gives us some early interaction with the Seal Away if they're running an aggressive creature-based deck like those white weenie decks, or it also has the negate here for those burn decks. So I'm going to keep this. Because we already have 3 lands in hand, I'm going to scry this Plains down to the bottom. Seems like we got a nice opponent here. So I'm going to play the Hallowed Fountain, enters tapped. I typically like to try to hold off as much information, type of colors we're playing, for as long as possible. So it looks like right here we're playing this Gates deck. And actually, I think I said it, you kind of occasionally run into it. It's actually probably one of the more played decks on Arena, actually. So they might have this Gatebreaker. So now this is going to be an issue for us. We're really going to have to be able to hit our land drops so we can board wipe. We're going to Revitalize, get that 3 life back. Subtle Wreckage, that's massive, massive against this deck, especially with these reoccurring called Gatekeeper Colossuses or whatever they're called, the 8/8s that they basically cast for free at the end of the game. Alright, we're going to take 5. So this Seal Away feels super bad in hand now because, as you see with the Gatebreaker Ram, when they control 2 or more gates, it gets Vigilance and Trample. So that feels super bad in hand right now. Again, perfect. We got 2 Settle the Wreckages and a Cleansing Nova. We're going to really have to push them to fight through what we have. One of the cards that really kind of makes the Gates deck work is a 3-drop blue enchantment. Whenever they play a gate, they draw a card. So we're going to see if they have a Spell Pierce. Some of these decks are now running Spell Pierces, which is fine. We'll make them burn it, and then we can always... Alright. And Settle the Wreckage on one creature kind of feels bad. Well, it does feel bad because you're just trading 1 for 1 in that instance. But again, 6/6 that we can't remove otherwise is pretty damning for us. So now we're going to try to play around that blue drop enchantment. You'll have to forgive me, I forget the name of it. But whenever a gate enters the battlefield, they draw a card. They may draw a card. So that's pretty much what we're going to be trying to play around right now, especially with as much removal as we have. Hydroid Krasis. This has become another staple of the deck. So they're going to draw 3 cards and gain 3 life. That's fine. Again, this is something that Seal Away can can handle. So I'm not overly concerned about this, especially now that we're hitting our land drops. So we're going to drop to Fairy here. We're going to plus them, draw a card, untap these 2 Glacial Forests, and then hopefully Seal Away when this opponent goes to attack with the Krasis.
We need to move quickly.
So what we're doing now is we're forcing them, even if we didn't have any removal, we're forcing them to attack to Fairy, kind of buying us some time. As expected, coming at Teferi. See if they have that Spell Pierce. So the Seal Aways aren't terrible in this matchup. Obviously they don't hit the Gatebreaker, but they do hit the Colossus, the 8/8s, and the Hydroid Krasises. So I'm okay because we main deck 4 of those. Let's see what else they're doing here. That's a thing. Alright. So let's draw and see what we got. Another Seal Away, so that's going to deal with Night of Autumn nicely. So let's drop Karn here. We're going to plus them. And what we're really going to do is we're going to kind of plus them and just filter out some cards. Obviously, they get to pick which card comes back to our hand, which is fine. Let's see. We already played a land for turn, so we're going to untap here. We're going to untap Hallowed Fountain and an island and pass. Again, we're going to drop this Seal Away down on this Night of Autumn. And now with both negates, we have Counterspell back up. See? Alright. Take that as a win. Oh, so this is new to me. This is actually going to show a little bit of my inexperience. I've never played a best of 3 here. So while we're waiting for our opponent, I actually don't have a sideboard made, which is a little bit embarrassing. But like I said, the way this deck is constructed, this UW deck, it's really, you know, they're going to board in probably some negates or those Spell Pierces, but we have more than enough weapons and counter spells to back it up. And this is, especially with this hand here. So we have a lot of card draw here, a couple lands with a Settle the Wreckage and a Lyra. So we're going to untap, pay 2, and again, I'm not a big proponent of opting on my turn. I want to see what the player does, because that may help me decide what I'm going to scry to the bottom or the top. Again, as a control deck, we have to hit our land drop, so we're going to take this and draw. Absorb is another big deal in this matchup too. It absorbs a counter spell, counter target spell, you gain 3 life. Here's our good buddy, the Gatebreaker Ram. We're gonna opt. Again, I'm concerned about hitting land drops, so we're gonna take that land. We just gotta make sure we get to that 4th and we draw a 5th. That's okay, because we have a lot of card draw with the Revitalize and the Chemister's Insight, and we can always fire off a Chemister's Insight with a Jump Start. So if we discard a land, that's fine too. So we're going to take 4, and then we're going to Revitalize and gain 3 of that back. Potentially, or we're going to absorb something. Growth Spiral is really an underrated card. I think that could potentially see some play in some Eternal formats too. It cycles and you can ramp, you know, that certainly seems good. So, again, we're sitting pretty good right now. I'm not really concerned about the life loss, so I'm willing to take the 5 to see what this person plays, and we always have Counterspell back up to gain 3 of it back. And if not, we're just going to Chemister Insight. So this is the card that really kind of the big engine of the deck. And again, let's see if we can fish out maybe a card. Nope, no Spell Pierce. So this Blink of an Eye, this is a 1-drop here, or a 1-of card in the deck. Basically, you just return target non-land permanent with a kicker of a blue-white, and you draw a card. And it's really become a very solid card for me. So basically what we're going to try to do is we're going to blink it back to his hand, or her hand. And then if they go to replay it, we're just going to absorb it. And then we can kind of wait on the Settle the Wreckage. Or we're going to force them to potentially tap out for a counterspell of some type, and then we just follow up with Teferi. That's fine. So now we have 2 options here. We can throw down Teferi. So we got 6 land. We'd only have 3 untapped, so they're going to be able to take out Teferi next turn. That's something that obviously we don't want to happen, because it's one of our major... it's the most important card in the deck, basically. So we're going to settle here. See if they have another counterspell. They don't. And so there's that Gate Colossus now. We're gonna just bounce this back, put this back on the...
I know my responsibility.
Throw that back near the top of their library, make them draw into it again. A couple of these gate decks, actually all the gate decks, they run 2 main deck Bane of Fires. Those become serious weapons because they can't be countered late in the game. So now this is a problem for us. So let's see.
Hold that thought.
Probably should have waited on throwing that down, but that's fine. So we're going to drop down Lyra, who, unless they have some type of removal spell, has first strike, so this Hydroid Krasis isn't an issue. They could have that Bane of Fire. There's our Gate Colossus. We'll let that resolve. Not that we can do anything with it. So basically our only option here is we're going to Chemister's Insight at the end of turn here. Obviously they're not going to choose to attack. So at the end of their turn, we draw 2 cards here unless they have a counterspell. And at that point we can fish out the counterspell too. This is huge. This seal away is huge for us.
Let's skip to the good part.
So let's see. I'm gonna throw down Karn. Give it a, we'll have another threat that they have to answer. Otherwise, this is just gonna be a card advantage engine for us. So obviously, they're gonna give us the island, but it makes them attack both of our planeswalkers here, and we can block Lyra. We can block the Krasis with Lyra, and then we could seal away the Gate Colossus. Let's see what they choose to do. They're going to have to attack. Now they could have... They could choose to try to fire off a negate. It looks like they may not have one, or may choose to not use it. What we're going to do if they don't get rid of this Karn here this turn, our turn. So they're going to destroy the enchantment here. So one thing here, I'm willing to trade off because we have another Lyra and we have multiple win conditions in this deck. I'm going to swing in if we don't draw into a Settle the Wreckage. I'm going to swing in, see if we can get them to trade with the Krasis. They won't, and then I might just board wipe, make them start over. So now we're going to have access to 2 seal-aways, which is massive for us.
Keep up the pace.
And a Settle the Wreckage. So we will drop down this, search for Iskanta. So I'm guessing they might have some type of counterspell, which is fine because they're letting that resolve. We're going to attack. None of these decks I've seen have any type of instant removal, so they're going to take it. So we're going to go back up to 20. We'll knock them down to 20. In turn, we're going to untap our 2 lands here. So now they have a lot of threats they need to answer. We have the Karn here. Oh, did I forget? And I forgot to activate the Karn. Darn it. That's alright. We got to seal away and to Settle the Wreckage. That's an amateur mistake. Big time. See if they got that counterspell. So they do. So let's cycle this Revitalize, see if we can pull into one. We can't. There's our second Lyra, which is fine. We'll resolve that. So I'm really more interested in keeping the Teferi. So we are going to, let's see who they have going. They got Gate Colossus going to Karn and the other 2. So we're going to try to seal away here the Hydroid Krasis. by Karn.
That was uncalled for.
Teferi lives. And now Search for his Cant is going to flip for us. We're going to throw that in the graveyard. Going to transform. Another land. Let's wait. Let's be smart. Draw a card.
Hurry!
Another land. So, because we have a bevy of land here, we got 4, 5, 8, 10, plus Search. We're going to go ahead and we're going to search right now and see if we can take any type of removal spell. Let's see. We're going to swing in for 5 here. We're going to throw down Karn. Then we're going to get back that seal away. What makes Karn so good is when you exile something with a Karn, if the first Karn dies, you throw down a second one, you can still grab it because it's got it still has that silver counter on there. Let's play our land for turn. We're going to untap the Search, and obviously we can't play anything on their turn, so we're essentially tapped out because we don't have anything at instant speed. But untapping that Search allows us to dig for a second time before, you know, our next turn. And again, our board presence is pretty strong right now. They have to choose, well, that's something. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll board wipe and then throw down our Lyra next turn. Oh, and they took Teferi. That's something too.
You know what? I'm not done yet.
That I've not seen from a gate stack, actually, that mass manipulation. So we're going to dig, and maybe we can find a second Teferi and then bounce this one back to the top of our deck. So we're in a little bit of trouble here. Let's see what we can find. Got negate and opt. I'm going to grab the negate because they seem to be running a lot of counterspell type stuff. We're going to opt. Actually, they're tapped out. So let's opt first. Let's dig. We're digging for that Teferi because we want to bounce this. So we still have 2, 3, 4, 8. So we have just enough if we can find that second Teferi. We can't. So we're going to play land. And we're going to board wipe. Again, it's not all that bad for us. We just have to find a way to deal with this Teferi. And the only way that's going to happen is
Hurry!
We're going to have to bounce it back to the owner's deck, which is the top of our deck. So it looks like they're counting up here, so they might be looking to deal with a Banefire. Now we're in trouble. See, I don't like that play there, the drawing and playing a land. Well, I guess they can untap. I was going to say they could fake like they had an negate or something. Alright. Let's start digging again. Take the Karn.
I'm known for my excellent timing.
We're going to put this back on the top of our library. We're going to force them to... Let's see, these guys don't have trample, right? Alright. Let's see. We just have the island. We're going to make a construct token here. I'm going to play a land. And we're going to pass. So they're going to eventually try to swing in. We have enough to keep one of these guys alive, one of our planeswalkers alive. Unless they have some type of instant speed removal. Let's see how they choose to do this. So what we're going to do, we're going to throw down this Krasis. We're going to exile the Krasis with Seal Away. Oh, power 2 or less. That's fine. So, let's see. We still have a couple settled wreckages.
You know what? I'm not done.
Cleansing Nova is pretty good here. You know, let's... So they're gonna... Oh, I forgot the Teferi. That's alright. Let's see. We're gonna attack. Let's see if we can at least swing in for a point of damage. Let's see if they opt to black. You never know. Looks like they're gonna block, that's fine. Then we will destroy all creatures. We already played a land. I'm holding on this Learbringer here because I'm really kind of worried about that Bane of Fire. Resolve all those. Those will just go back to the top of their library. Unless they have a growth spire, that's not an issue for us now. We'll just see if we can dig for a settle the wreckage. And we're going to negate that bad boy. And then we're going to dig. What do we got? We got 2 untapped, so I'm going to take this. We're going to continue to dig. Alright, so now we have 4 major win cons they're going to be forcing us to deal with, forcing them to deal with. So we're going to make a construct here.
Awaken.
Going to draw.
We need to move quickly.
Play land tapped. Play this Lyra. And then at the end of their turn, we're going to flash in Angel of Grace too. I don't know how many cards. I have 9 cards left in the deck, so we're going to have to hustle here. So there's their Gate Colossus. That's fine. So now we're going to have 11 power on our turn, and we're just going to be swinging in and gaining a bunch of life too. So that Gate Colossus. And now they're just going to draw into these Gate Colossuses, which is fine. There you go. 2-0 so far. And that's despite me having some serious misclicks, not even misclicks, just misplays. So we got a 350 gold coin reward, and we're gonna go crack a pack too. So let's check out the packs. Wilderness Reclamation. This is a solid card. I've certainly seen play in in EDH. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Let's see what the rare is. Precognitive Perception. Nah. Alright, let's play one more game before we call it a day. So this should just be, unless I'm not understanding anything, which is a possibility, this should just be a 1-of-1 game. Again, this is a really good hand for us. We have early card draw and interaction, and we kind of curve out pretty nicely here. We got a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a 4-drop, and then the 5-drop, and we got 3 lands. Play a land and pass. And again, I'm going to opt at their turn because I'm not really sure what type of deck. Is this a Jund deck or the... Yep, okay. So this is the Wild Growth Walker decks. Again, I'm worried about hitting land drops, so I'm fine with taking that land. And then we're just going to seal away this Growth Walker when they go to swing in and attack. Sure. And because we have so many exiling effects, this Memorial to Folly really becomes null for us. They're going to have to find ways to get rid of this enchantment, and then with the 3 Settle the Wreckages we run. So these green-black decks, or these Jund decks, or even Bug, but it just looks like straight green-black. That's fine, we'll ramp. We'll ramp. So these green-black decks also run Vraska's Contempts, so we really have to be careful when we drop our Planeswalkers and make sure we have some type of protection for them. Obviously, we're going to save our Settle the Wreckage for something a bit bigger. Again, let's see if they explore. So this is a bug. They finally dropped the blue card. So this is going to be an issue. This Vivian Reed, this is a threat that we have to deal with immediately.
I didn't go through hell to lose to you. Sometimes restoration means retribution.
Alright. Start filtering, so they'll give us Chemist or Insight. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So that just tells me they have a bunch of removal in their hands, or they have another Vivian Reed.
No one knows the wilds like I do.
Or a Hostage Taker that they just drew. There's what Hostage Taker does. There's our Vraska's Contempt. Again, it's nothing but a bunch of 1/1s or 1/3s, so it's not an issue for us at all. So we have a couple of options. I think now is probably a decent time to settle the wreckage. They're just going to hold on to this hostage taker until we drop this Lyra Dawnbringer.
I've seen things that would break someone.
We're going to need to draw into something here. A bounce spell. We're quickly falling behind here. Again, I'm fine taking the 2 points because they have a ton of creatures and they're going to start flooding the board. Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. The one thing the blue-white control deck really struggles with is if an opponent drops a Planeswalker. There's not a lot of ways to deal with it. To fairy, and then maybe blinking it back to their hand. We're just kind of not drawn into anything, any type of really lot of interactive spells for us. So that's not really an issue for us because we have another Settle the Wreckage. So they got another Crisis, a Hostage Taker, and then another Crisis. So they're going to drop the Crisis down for X of 6, and then we'll just counter it with the Absorb. But we've essentially got 3 turns to deal with this Vivian Reed, and we're not pulling any type of card draw. They must not be running a whole lot of Explorer cards, which really kind of begs the question why they're running this anyways.
I will fight for my friends. What was lost is
So we're going to bring this Chemistry's Insight back to hand. We're going to hope to draw into, like it's a fairy, and bounce this Vivian Reed to the top of their deck, 3rd card from the top. There's the Explorer. Really concerned about the Crisis landing. I mean, there's just we're in a lot of trouble. Not looking for land. What do we got? Alright. So what we can do, we can wipe the board, and then we have this Absorb backup to counter one of these big Crisises they're going to drop, and then we essentially have to find something to deal with Vivian Reed, or else they're going to get an emblem that's going to be pretty difficult for us to deal with. Especially since they're a bug creature-centric control deck.
You can't stop nature.
So it looks like, yep, they're going to follow up with the Branch Walker. They're going to explore. And then we're just going to anticipate and see if we can find that fairy. So they might, I was going to say, they might play a Krasus and go 1-1 with it, that's fine. Oh, it's true. Again, I'm more worried about the Vivian Reed. I mean, because if this emblem goes off, we're just done. We're going to discard. Nope, that's game. So we're just going to concede here. That's game. There's no way we could have dealt with that anyways. It's just one of those games where, you know, you didn't draw into the cards you needed. We drew into our card draw just simply too late, and we were digging and couldn't find anything. Alright, well, we can go buy another pack since we have enough gold. Alright, so let's check it out. Alright, we earned another gold. I actually have, let's see what it is first, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. Godless Shrine, alright. That's helpful. So I actually have 2 mythics and 2 rares, that wild cards that I haven't used yet. I really don't know. I enjoy playing control decks, and I think I've mentioned that ad nauseum at this point on the stream. I really don't know what else, how I could tweak the deck to improve it. Maybe push 2 Karns, push it down from 3 to 2 Karns, and then maybe up from 2 Teferis to 3 Teferis. It was hard to say. Otherwise, you know, the deck, it is what it is. We went 2 and 3, or 2 and 1. I'm sorry. So. But that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back next week with the In Response stream. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Hopefully next week I won't play so poorly as I did. And we'll see everybody later. Thanks. Bye.